Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 29th. I have no idea what day it is. Just glad to be here with you. Just thinking today about the opportunities we have to share our faith. And sometimes that can be terrifying, and sometimes it can be so easy. And it isn't always about us. I was wearing my clergy shirt on my bishop's regalia to come home from Calgary on Sunday. And we were standing in the airport, a couple of us. There was one bishop who was wearing a t-shirt, a priest who was wearing a black clergy shirt with a collar, and I was wearing my purple clergy shirt with my collar and my cross. And we were just standing talking, and a flight attendant from, I don't know, WestJet or something walked up to us, and she asked me about the color of my shirt and what did it mean. And then Theo, who was wearing the black shirt, turned around too, and she saw that he was a priest. And we had this really quick conversation about the different colors we wear and what it indicates and why it is. And it was absolutely fantastic because it was just a quick encounter. But she asked us, we were just huddled together having a conversation, waiting for more of our folks to arrive at the airport to go through security. And it was just this incredible moment where she felt comfortable enough to stop and ask us a question. And she seemed really, really good with the answer. She was intrigued, like she was listening. And she's like, okay, thank you so much. And she was so kind and polite to us that we would take the time to stop and talk with her. And I was reveling in the fact that she, in her busy day, would stop and talk to us. And then when at the airport, or on the airplane, on the way home, right after they announced that we were landing and we had our seat backs up and our TV tray, our table trays were affixed to the back of the chairs before us and all that stuff. The young man, maybe in his mid-30s, who was sitting beside me, I think he had a wedding ring on, asked me how my flight was. Earlier in the flight, he'd offered me a cookie. He'd gotten some cookies from Starbucks and asked me if I wanted one, and I politely declined, mostly because I know how much cookies from Starbucks cost. And it was very generous of him to offer. But at the end of the flight, he asked me how my flight was, and I asked him how his was, and he asked the guy beside him. He was in the middle seat. And I said I was going to get up and get my bag when the plane stopped, and he offered to help me in. It's like, no, I'm okay, because I was on the outside. It would be more awkward for him to try to grab it than for me. But it was very kind. And then he asked me a question. He said, was I a minister? So I started talking about being an Anglican priest and then being elected a bishop. And it turns out he was baptized as Anglican as a baby, but, didn't go for very long and drifted away from the church. But he asked me lots of questions about what I do and where I do it and what it means. And we had this incredible conversation about how I feel about what I do and what I think about Christianity and what it is to be an Anglican. And essentially, for those of you who have been watching me for a while, you know that I'm very inclusive. I think that being an Anglican it's the path along which I choose to follow my Christianity. It is not the only path along which to follow Christianity. And I really do believe that it's not the only path along which to encounter the divine. I think it's the way that I'm comfortable with. It has familiar scenery, and the path, while I've never walked it completely, it seems familiar. I know that others I love and care for have walked this journey ahead of me. They have left markers along the path for me to find, to know that I'm heading in the right direction, to give me warning signs, don't go down this path, but turn left here instead of right, or take this fork in the road. The Anglican path for me is the one, as I said, I'm most familiar with. The terrain is comfortable, sometimes challenging, but always relatively familiar. I'm not asked questions for which I have no answer. No, that's not true. There are questions I am asked for which I have no answer. But along the path I am taking, I always feel like if I don't have the answer today, I may indeed come upon it tomorrow. Whereas if I was walking another path that wasn't the path that I am familiar with, the path that as an Anglican, if I was walking as a Presbyterian or some other group of people who are searching for that path to the divine, I think that the journey would be more focused on where I'm putting my feet every step of the way, because it wouldn't be as familiar. The path I am taking in my Christianity is always brand new to me. I don't know what tomorrow or the rest of today holds, but I do know that I've been trained in it. I know the undulations of the road. I know how wide or how narrow it's going to get within reason. I know enough of the answers, enough of the language. It's like seeing signposts in your own language. I recognize them. When we were in Scotland, my husband and I, and also when I went with my sister and my dad, we came across road signs that had the Gaelic, they had the Scottish written first, and then the English. And it took some getting used to, because the first thing you see is the other, and you don't understand it. But then when you see it in a language you know, it's like, okay, yeah, I know where I am. You feel relaxed. You're like, okay, no panic. We can handle this. We're going. Well, that's what the Anglican path for me is like in my Christianity. I can recognize the language of the road signs. Whereas if I was walking in a Presbyterian path or Roman Catholic path, those road signs would be awfully familiar. They would be probably in a language I understood, but not necessarily context I understood. So walking the path as an Anglican allows me this freedom to explore a little bit, to not have to worry so much about watching for every single step that I take. I can keep my eyes up and look further down the path because I'm aware of what's happening. I'm aware of the language. I'm aware of the traditions. I'm aware of the expectations, because we all have them, whether we acknowledge them or not. There are expectations in every culture or group. And in the Anglican Church, I'm familiar with them. So having this conversation with this young man about what I do and who I am and how I work and what my responsibilities are, and indeed about Jesus and about God and, what's going to happen when the time comes, when I'm face to face with God, I told him, I said, I would much rather, I apologize, I got something in my eye. I told him I would much rather come to the throne of God or the face of God or things like that and have God say to me, you erred on the side of compassion. You were too generous in your love. You offered to people things that you were not yours to offer. I don't think that God will say that. But I'd rather have that confrontation with God, that comeuppance with God, than to have God come face to face with God in the end and him say to me, or God say to me, God's self say to me, you are arrogant in your understanding. You are narrow in who you thought I would love. You hurt people in your belief that somehow you had the right answers. If I'm wrong in all of what I do, I would rather be told I was wrong because I lived a life that was compassionate and gentle and encouraging and inclusive than to be told that I was wrong because I wasn't compassionate, inclusive, encouraging. I would much rather be admonished by God because I was too kind than to be admonished by God because I wasn't kind enough. Now, my hunch is that God won't admonish me for being too kind. But if I have to choose a path, I will choose the one that I can welcome other people onto, that I can walk with them and say, you're welcome to join me. I have a feeling you're going to be welcome to join we're both being welcome to join God in God's kingdom. And that's what I was trying to get across to that young man. And I think I did. Did I change his life? Probably not. Have I convinced him he should find an Anglican church and start going again? Probably not. But maybe I laid a brick. I laid a step in the foundation of the path that he is on that encourages him to find God, to find a relationship with Jesus Christ, to discover who the divine is his life. Do I hope he's Anglican? Sure. Why not? I'd love to see him in one of the churches I go to sometime. But if he decides that he's going to pursue his faith, his understanding of who God is in a different way, then more power to him. I just want him to do that. I think it's important that we learn to be able to speak of our own faith, not that we will challenge others to take on ours, but that we might encourage others to begin their own faith journey. Where are you in yours? You could be still at the starting gate, putting on your running shoes reluctantly. Or you could be so far ahead of me that you're like blazing the trail. Wherever you are on your own path, on your own faith journey, God bless you. And may God encourage you and keep on going one step at a time, because it's your trail and nobody can tell you what's right or wrong. You're the one who has to determine how you walk this path. And if you're walking it with integrity, then you're walking it right. God bless everybody. I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.